Welcome to the Time Has Come podcast. My name is Graham Wardle, and I want to thank you all for joining me here again for another episode of my show. Today, I have the founder of the Hugs Over Masks organization, Vladislav Sobolev. Vlad is from Kazakhstan, and he grew up under the Soviet Union, but he now lives in Canada. Over the past 18 months, Vlad has been on a mission to awaken Canadians and others around the world to stand in our own power and protect the freedoms that far too many of us have taken for granted. This episode is for anyone who's been looking to step up, to speak out, and to take action in a meaningful way. Maybe you know someone who sits on the sidelines of life waiting for things to get better. Or maybe they believe their voice doesn't matter and their actions wouldn't make a difference. Well, the truth is, we all influence others whether we know it or not. So take ownership of this power and direct it consciously. This was one of many empowering insights that Vlad shared with me on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Now the time has come to please welcome Vladislav Sobolev to the show. Vlad, how you doing today?
You know what? I actually feel good today. Thank you for asking. I mean, I actually had a court hearing this morning to address the ticket that I got in April in Nelson, BC for organizing the protest, right?
I want to hear about that.
But sure.
First of all, I want to say thank you. I want to start this podcast by saying thank you, Vlad, for everything that you've done so far. I've only known you about a year.
Yeah, we met in August.
In August.
August something, end of August of last year, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And I just want to thank you because you have been instrumental in my life, helping me speak up, helping me stand up. And when I first met you, I could tell that you had done some deep inner work. You were a loving person. You were a caring person. And you'd said to me, this is about love and gratitude, man. This is about love and gratitude. And I was like, what? Like, whoa, man, this is not what I thought a protest would be like. This is not what I thought somebody would be like that's leading this thing. So
thank you.
I just want to thank you for that and acknowledge that to start out. Vlad is a man that I believe in the future, we will look back in Canada as one of the instrumental players that has shifted the course of history for our country. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done.
I appreciate that. Thanks, bro.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So tell me about this ticket.
I had a last-minute personal appearance because it's in Nelson, so it's like 7 hours drive from Vancouver. This was my third appearance scheduled to address this ticket. But you know, when the judge asked me what would I like to do with this ticket, I'm like, I would like to have a disclosure. And for people that don't understand, disclosure, it's basically your request for the evidence behind the offense for which you're being charged for.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And I repeat, this was the third appearance for myself and a few other people that got tickets the same day for the same protest. And the Crown Attorney still had to say to the judge, I'm sorry, we still don't have a disclosure from the police regarding this matter.
So there's no evidence to prove the charges?
Yeah. Now, that did not stop the judge even issuing the warrant for my arrest last month because I skipped the second appearance. It was just a bench warrant, meaning that I had to show up at the police station, turn myself in, and they would schedule a next court hearing as long as I show up during the working hours. And I actually want to thank the police officer that showed up at one of our City Hall rallies and kind of gave me that information. I didn't even know about that I had a warrant for my arrest. So I do believe there's people looking after me, which I appreciate.
Amen.
And I'm blessed and grateful for everyone supporting me openly and maybe not openly. But so I do feel good today. And then there's just so much things been unraveling in a positive way. There's a lot of people speaking up now. Kyrie Irving from the Nets being one of the amazing stand-up man, and in one of his discussions why he's taking that stand, he said, I'm not even doing this for me, I'm doing this for other people that are losing their jobs because they're not able to exercise freedom of choice. Yeah. Right? Last night, actually, Mayweather, the boxing champ.
Yes, I posted this on Instagram.
That was tremendous. Talking about the influencer at that level, just acknowledging, not commenting on specific issue that
just
Irving
comment on what he's standing up for.
And then saying, like, you know, you being crucified for this is not okay. And guess what? You know, revolution sometimes starts with just one man. And then we have even the sniper, the security detail for Justin Trudeau, openly calling out RCMP and standing on the right side of the history. And then, you know, we're not gonna be arresting moms going to the hockey arena because that's not the Canada that we're gonna live in, right? So
and these individuals, they're called like what's their organization called? Because I heard it was the group of people that are tasked to protect the Prime Minister.
Yeah, so I mean it's a security detail, right?
Security,
so whatever
okay.
Whatever bodyguard, special forces, whatever, right? So I guess he's a part of that.
Yeah.
And now obviously he acted on his own accord, but he's calling out, and he wrote a letter addressing specifically to the RCMP, which is Canadian version of FBI, if people don't know the difference. And that website is mountiesforfreedom.ca. 4 is number 4. So yeah, I see tremendous wave being built up, obviously in the last year and a half. And at this point, it's almost like an avalanche, right? And it's just gaining massive momentum. So my energy is good this day, and just doing my best to continue building the resistance no matter what, because I even said before meeting up with you to one of my friends is the real work will start after we win this initial steps, because at this point we're just trying our best to stop the measures, right? To kind of end this BS nonsense lockdown and infringements on our rights. But the real work will start for us to eliminating these people from this position so they never even dare to do this again. And not even that, they have to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That's the real work ahead of us.
Yes, it is. Let's double back though, Vlad, to speaking up and starting Hugs Over Masks.
Yes.
Over a year ago now.
Yeah.
What was the tipping point for you?
So
where did you get the courage to do this? And why is this so important to you?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question. For me, there's a few things I share in my speeches to give people perspective, and that's kind of been my method of operation, so to speak. I do my best to just empower people and impact them in a way where they're able to, first of all, have a shift in their mindset, and that's what I think has to happen for people to do anything. It's literally a shift in the mind. That's a mindset shift, right? And I do believe from my personal development work for different courses and all that stuff, I think that happens most of the time when people gain perspective. So in my speeches and my whatever I do my best to provide perspective for people to kind of plant those seeds within which they're able to have that shift in the mindset. So for me, first of all, the way I was brought up, and I share that, people that come to the rallies or take action, most of the time it's because the values that they were raised with. And the two specific values that I was raised with, and that's why I do what I do, is when you see injustices being done around you, the first thing you do is you bring attention to it. So you speak up about it, right? If this is not okay, what's happening, at the very minimum, you need to talk about it, right? You need to bring attention to it so then other people maybe don't see it, will see it after you bring attention to it. Now, the reality is if you do this for a period of time and nothing happens, in my opinion, it becomes your responsibility to do something about it. That's just how I was brought up, right? Like if I see someone in need and need help, and I'm there to do it, well, it's almost a requirement to do it in a sense, right? So it's just the values that you have. Like just a simple example, if you see a mother with a stroller not able to get up the stairs in a subway, well, guess what? You help her, right? If you see an elderly lady struggling with the groceries in the store to put her in the car, well, guess what? You help her. Do you see an elderly man can't cross the side, the crosswalk, wherever, well, guess what? You help that man, right? So it's just the way I was brought up, and it's probably a combination of family that I was brought up, and even in Kazakhstan where I was born and grew up, I do believe that, especially back then, that place was beautiful because we were raised treating people with respect from a young age and being helpful within your community, right? That community sense and being able to help and support, definitely I would credit to my upbringing. And then the other thing is, being a father, right? Last year when this whole thing was starting, my son just turned 4 years old. And when the lockdown started, and within a month, he obviously couldn't even go play on the playgrounds. He couldn't play with his friends in school and all that stuff. He asked me like, Dad, I don't want to play with adults. I want to play with kids. And he just turned 4, right? So to me, it's like, yeah, this is not going to make sense. And then in April, when I was watching regularly all the briefings from these, bureaucrats or whatever, they were putting masks on statues and laughing about it in April of 2020. And I caught that. And to me, that was like a huge red flag because that's just a standard, indoctrination, brainwashing, propaganda machine where they normalizing the behavior of having masks everywhere, right? And then laughing about it, right? So normalizing it and almost making it as a joke. That happened in April of 2020. And the same thing in April of 2020. For 4 days straight, our crime minister, Justin Castro.
I got that. I was like, I get it.
Right?
Nice.
For 4 days straight, he said in April that we're not going to go back to normal until everyone's fully vaccinated. And he didn't say it one day. He didn't say it.
He said that April of this year or last year?
April of 2020 for 4 days straight. For 4 days straight.
That.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like I watched for 2.5 months when they started doing the shutdowns and everything. I literally watched every single federal briefing, provincial Ontario briefing where I was still living at the time, and then municipal Toronto briefing because I really wanted to understand.
Yeah,
I wanted to understand, what are the measures we're taking. I wanted to understand what information we're sharing. And obviously, coming from Soviet Union, I understand propaganda machine. So I wanted to be vigilant. And, as much as people hate listening to those people, I would still encourage to listen at this point once in a while because they do tell you a lot of things if you pay attention. You can see body language, you can see information that they share, you can see how they talk about certain things, right? And the last thing that really gave me the perspective, knowing that this is definitely a real evil agenda and they're going after our children 100%, it's not even a question, is I was able to screen record a YouTube video, which was instructional video made by a principal of a small school somewhere between Quebec and Ontario, because it was in English, but I think it was maybe like on a border. And that video was made specifically for this little school by this principal. And I think the channel at the time had maybe 600 subscribers or whatever, nothing. In a matter of 24 hours, that video was watched by like over 40,000 people. And the channel was completely taken down. Again, luckily I was able to screen record it. But in that video, again, in May of 2020, you have a principal basically showing the school looking like a concentration camps for kids.
Oh, I think I saw this.
Right?
Where they had to distance themselves.
Yeah. Staying on a circle, staying on the squares, not being close to each other, sitting on desks facing the wall, not able to socialize with kids, running around, playing out non-existent of that. And if your teacher is approaching you, the teacher will approach you with a full gown, masks, shield, gloves, not going to be able to open your granola bar or nothing like that, right? So all that transpired in the beginning of it. I'm like, oh no, this is real. And we have to make a stop to it. Like, I mean, I'm not going to allow my son to be subjected to this indoctrination and ultimately enslavement. So, yeah, I went to my very first protest in my life, May 2nd of 2020. And within 3 weeks, I kind of launched the Hugs of Masks movement. And for me, the genesis for that was still about the kids. To me, hugs represents humanity. Hugs is something kids do intuitively without even thinking about it. And then masks obviously was still at the time and still to this day opposing the masks. But it's a symbol. It's a symbol of fear. It's a symbol of tyranny.
Isn't it also a torture technique that CIA would use?
Oh, yeah.
In like Guantanamo Bay, they would
It's anything that restricts your body functions and dehumanize you.
Yeah, psychological.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, the only people in the history of the world that were forced to wear the masks were slaves. Because it takes away your opportunity to speak. It takes away your opportunity to eat. You need to ask permission, all that stuff, right? People don't realize how significant the over in Hugs of Masks is, because people were asking me in the beginning, Vlad, why is not hugs not masks? I'm like, no. Over is there for a reason. I understood that if we want to be really successful with something, it's not about fighting against something. Yeah. It's about overpowering, overtaking it, and ultimately creating something beautiful instead. And that's what Hugs Over Masks is all about. And obviously, the other two slogans that I was using initially was facts over fear, and then love over fear. Those are the three main signs besides freedom is essential. If you remember, even at Kitsilano, when we met, those are the 4 signs that I had. And now, I mean, it's all around the world. You see people saying freedom over fear.
I know.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I believe, being guided and kind of channeling different things and just listen to my intuition as much as I can and not necessarily thinking that I'm doing all the right moves in the last year and a half, but having faith and then paying attention to the signs and small signs, not the big signs, just the kind of acknowledgement and affirmations that I am on the right track. One of those initial things for me at the early stages of Hugs of a Mask was when I did come to Vancouver to continue building the movement the second time, and I stayed for 5 weeks at that point, I actually stayed in a house with a man that was one of the founding members of Hug Squad from 17 years ago.
What's that?
So Hug Squad was a movement organization started by a few people literally 17 years ago in Vancouver. And one of the founding members, basically his house, I was a roommate for several weeks. And that happened by coincidence, not.
Oh, wow.
But just
synchronicity. Beautiful synchronicity.
Tremendous.
Yes, that's how you know you're on the right track, is when you have the world, God, the universe, however you see that greater power align things for you, and you see signs, and you're like, okay, I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And you feel sometimes, and I'm sure you do, and I do in my own life, am I doing the right thing? Is this going? And then you get those little signs, like, okay, what are the odds?
Yes.
You know?
It's pretty epic. It's pretty epic. And not to, blow my own horse, so to speak, but I have like countless of those. Synchronicities or, just definitely things lining up a certain way where I do believe that I'm on the right path. And, there's certain things that may be happening that creating some emotional, negative things for the current moment in my life. But there's always a bigger picture to everything that's happening for you. And there's a reason why you say for you, not to you, right? Because for you, meaning for your growth, for your evolution, for your development. Yeah. And that's what I mentioned to you as we were on the way here, is it's all in the focus, right? Like anything that's happening, we can choose to be either put down by it or be empowered by that. And it takes a lot of practice, a lot of discipline, and a lot of personal development and inner work, like you mentioned. And again, like reflecting back on the end of 2019, I actually did a silence retreat for the first time in my life.
That was one of my questions right before this hit.
Yes.
You did it. Was it 10 day or 5 day?
5 days.
It was a 5-day silent meditation retreat.
The Art of Living.
The Art of Living, yeah.
It was in a resort place in like Quebec, like outside of, like a couple hours outside of Montreal in the woods. And I never done anything like that, right? Yeah. It was the kind of first time going and being silent for 5 days and doing, yogas in between and meditation and eating, vegan food and just being in nature in the middle of the winter in Quebec and beautiful forests with snow. It definitely prepared me. That
was exactly what I was going to say, was like you had the perfect setup for the craziest transformation in human history.
Yeah.
You had that silent time in nature. So what did you learn in that silent 5 days? Did you get any big takeaways?
You know what? It's good that you ask me now. I've been kind of busy not reflecting on that much recently, so I don't necessarily have a specific answer right now. What I do know is it does make a difference for you to be quiet, because then you can really be with yourself. And especially in this technological world, I'm on like 2-3 phones, all the technology and everything else. But at that point, I had nothing. And it was good. It was good to do this detox. And a lot of people do, more regular digital detox. And I think that's great. If you're able to, definitely go for it. So I'm sure that was beneficial from that. But it's just, I don't find it coincidence that I was able to do a silence retreat right before the storm of my life and many people's lives, right?
I went to a 10-day silent Vipassana, I think it was called. Yeah, Vipassana. Yeah. So I'm not sure what overlaps there are.
I think Vipassana, I'm familiar with that. I think that's even more stricter than the one I've done.
Yeah, because we weren't allowed to exercise, like no stretching.
Exactly. Yeah,
I guess you could stretch, but you weren't supposed to exercise or do yoga or read. Could you look people in the eyes in your course?
Yeah. So I think they
I wasn't allowed to do that.
I hear. Yeah, I know some people that done Vipassana, and I haven't done it, but I am familiar, and I know the one that I've done was not. I don't even want to call it extreme. It just was not that strict. Maybe strict would be a better word, because again, extreme just the label that we're putting on things just because of our personal, preconceived notions and stuff like that. And that's the other thing too. I find that, and again, not perfect by any means, but doing my best to be a good student is doing my best not put labels on stuff, because the reality is, we can't help it. We put labels on things. This is a good thing, this is a bad thing, etc. Can you imagine if we just do our best not to put labels at all and just it is what it is?
So when you say labels, you mean, because what I'm hearing you say is judgments.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a label, because I can label something, but I'm not good or bad. It's just what it is.
Sure. So by that I mean judgment. Yeah, that's a good additional distinction into that. Yeah, I think as much as we cannot put labels, aka judgments, on stuff, and would also help us navigate life probably smoother to a certain extent, or maybe even more beneficial, because even right now I'm saying, like, I'm putting judgment, like one way is smooth, the other way is not smooth, right?
It's just an experience.
It is an experience, right?
Yeah.
And then the reality is, as soon as we're putting a label or judgment of some sort, I do believe that we limit the benefits that we can gain from something.
When I was at my Vipassana retreat, and I would stare out the windows around day 6 or 7, and I would just look at a tree, and I was so content with it. And I wasn't I was just like, just looking at life.
Be with it, right?
Be with it.
Being
yeah.
with life.
So labels, yes, they're helpful for the mind to like categorize and organize things, for sure. And also, a lot of people use judgments, good and bad, because it's things that don't feel good, we don't enjoy. But like you said, by just acknowledging and witnessing something for what it is in the present moment, without having to, good, bad, I don't like this person, I do like this person. And that's really what I like to do with this podcast, is like, you know what, you may not agree with everything I say or my guest says, but can you witness and be present with the essence of this person, who they are in the essence? And that's it. And that's what I think is so powerful, that I think we've lost in our world today.
For sure.
Everything has become polarized, good and bad, and us versus them. And it's like, yeah, we do need to have boundaries and distinctions for our own lives, for sure. But do we have to demonize everybody?
Yeah.
You know, like,
it's a very important point.
It's unfortunate, but I think it's so crucial that we have these types of conversations where we don't have to agree on everything. Yeah. And that's okay, as long as we can be respectful.
100%.
You know, because that's something that we've lost.
That's
we've
essential.
lost a lot of the respect
yeah.
in conversation now.
I do believe that's one of the biggest challenges for people to address, is to gain respect and to be able to coexist with alternative viewpoints. And to that extent, you know, people might go at me, oh, Vlad, maybe you don't agree with certain things and then you're going after them. Well, I believe I go only after certain things if I don't agree with them, if they actually have an additional impact, not even on me, but on my children. Right? So, I mean, there's obviously a huge controversial point right now with Dave Chappelle and his latest comedy special, Closer, where he's obviously discussing the transgender issues and all that stuff. And then the reality is, you know, this is no longer about just, you know, gay people being able to get married. Like, where we are in society right now, like, there's a huge assault on traditional values and children ultimately, right? And in Canada especially, people don't understand the extent of this assault on gender identity for children. In fact, where a child just expressing that they're confused about what's going on, apparently it's against the law for the therapist to help them to assert back to their own gender.
It's against the law?
Yeah, in Canada, apparently, that even that is coming to the level where this therapist not even allowed to say to the child, like, they're supposed to, basically this therapist only allowed to support whatever belief child has. So they cannot tell them, no, you're a boy, think about being a boy and all that stuff. Is like, if a boy says, I'm a girl and I want to be a girl, even 6 years old, the only job for the therapist at this point is just to support that new identity of a child. So what I'm getting to is, you know, transgender situation and how things go about it. Like, if you, as an adult, do whatever you want with your life.
Yeah. But
propaganda and complete brainwashing of children is unacceptable, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I respect everyone, right? I respect, you know, straight people, gay people, transgender people. I have zero issues with any types of...
How you want to live your life.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, if that spills over into brainwashing the children and confusing them and creating disastrous situations for them, I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to be speaking about it. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but at the very minimum, you need to respect my right to talk about it.
I think it was in the Washington Post, there was an article that said parents believe they have the right to shape their kids' curriculum or to shape what they learn in schools. Yeah. And they say, and then the article, the headline was something like, they don't or they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that to me is like,
crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So wait, so my kid, I don't have any right to teach them. It's up to the government to teach them and they get the final. That doesn't make any sense.
In the States, I don't know if you're up on the news, but a couple of weeks ago, parents in some of the states were considered domestic terrorists.
Yes, I've heard this.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like you said, it's a complete war on the family and
on traditional values, on religion, and ultimately our children. Yeah. Jamie Levi has a great song. It was #1 for like, you know, good week or so, rap chats, right? And the song is "This Is the War."
Yeah.
And it's talking about, this is a war on tradition and religion and our children. And the reality is, as much as I want to help everyone to get mask exemption and able to keep their job without getting jabbed at the same time, the perspective needs to be shifted, because how uncomfortable are you willing to get to protect all the kids? That's a real question that people should be asking themselves first. A lot of people just focusing, I just want to exempt my own child. Okay, well, I'm glad you do. And at the same time, what about other kids? And if you think you can protect your own child for the temporary solution right now, what kind of world do you want your children to live in? And then their children, ultimately your grandchildren. And, we are responsible for this world that we're going to leave for the next generations. And I think that's going back to your original question, why myself have been doing what I've been doing since the beginning. And a lot of people been doing it from the beginning. Some people joined later. But I think it's a realization and sense of responsibility for this world, in a true meaning of that word. Like, we are responsible for this world, and we have the power, and this is our responsibility to ensure that we can leave the next generations ultimately better than we are.
Than we found it, yeah.
Right.
That's what I thought about when I think it was Anthony Fauci who said, we're not gonna be shaking hands anymore. That's not gonna be something, something like around this idea that shaking hands was gonna be something of the past.
Yeah, no.
And it got me so angry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to tell my future kids, on that movie when you saw those people shaking hands, this is why they did that. Why don't we do that anymore, Dad? Because that will not be.
Exactly.
And so that was my moment of this world is changing, and I can see them seeding narratives.
Yes.
And once you start to see it, you're like, this is all propaganda. This is all planned, and they slowly seed it.
Yeah. It's
all psychological.
It's psychological war. It's a war in the mind. It's not even war in the mind of adults. They actually don't care how many adults they have. They have enough. It's ultimately for the children, right? So again, understanding that, what are you doing to protect the minds of all the children? Because they are the one that are going to be 10 years later pretty much making this world what it's going to be. And that's also the other thing to consider for people, is that people definitely have to have a long-term mindset, meaning that whatever temporary solutions you're going to be able to have for yourself, or maybe even for your family, like this year or next year, what do you think is going to happen in 10 years, right? Where at that point, the agenda is going to be rolled out so much is no matter what you do with your individual family, you're not going to be able to change nothing, right? So that's where, again, the level of actions that have been taken as much as humanly possible for me has been pretty much nonstop. And I wish, everyone who's involved now were doing that since day one. But again, I understand human nature.
Yeah.
The reality is most people not going to do much until they become too uncomfortable. And that's why even my slogans now, like let's get uncomfortable. Like, let's all get as uncomfortable as humanly possible. That's when the real change happens, is when we're willing to go and do whatever it takes. Not what's convenient, and not even whatever I can. Because there's almost like 3 levels of actions you can take. You can take whatever is convenient. You can do whatever you can, because in your mind you're making limits on what are your
possible.
abilities, right?
Right.
Or the mindset is, I do whatever it takes.
So you've committed to that
the last
value.
Point.
Because I'll do whatever it takes because I've committed to that.
Yeah.
Now, what gets somebody from that place to I'll do what I can to I'll do whatever it takes? What do they need internally to make that shift to that next level?
In the mind shift.
It's a mind shift.
It's a perspective. It's ultimately understanding what's truly important for you. And the best determining factor to see what's really important for somebody is their actions. So people can say whatever they want to say. The actions will show what's really important to them ultimately, or what they really understand. Because when I talk to people, it's like, no, I understand what's really happening right now. And I just have to laugh in my head, because if you really would understand what this is all about, your level of actions would be different. And again, I'm not necessarily, passing
it's not a judgment. No,
exactly,
it's an observation.
Right? It is. Yeah. It's just as dry understanding of evaluation or whatever people going through. Just I can see your mind shift is not there. You think you have a full comprehension of what's about to take place, but your actions don't show that.
I think for myself, in the way that I've witnessed myself shifting, and like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I've been inspired continuously by your work and many others around Canada and the United States and all around the world for that matter. But I have noticed in myself this progression, and then this like sort of like, wait, is this really happening? Like, I kind of don't want it to happen because there's this ego retreat into the comfort, into the known, into like, well,
it's part of human nature.
It's part of human nature. And it's like, well, life can't change this much, you know? And then I take another step, and I think it's mostly been in my meditations when I sit back and I go, the amount of trust that has been broken and the lines that have been crossed, like you said, with politicians and health officials that have said one thing and then done the opposite.
And if I may, even with people that we looked ourselves as spiritual leaders.
That too. Yeah.
You have the Pope, you have a Dalai Lama, you have whatever other people that I listen to. What's the guy's name? The Indian
Sadhguru?
Sadhguru too, but the other one that
Deepak Chopra.
Yes, yeah. Like they all been pushing this nonsense. Are you kidding me? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So for me personally, like, I mean, people might laugh about it, but you know, Screw Your Freedoms by Arnold Schwarzenegger, of all the people, like he was my idol growing up as a kid. For most boys, you know, especially if you're weak and thin, like I was growing up as a kid, like, yeah, you look as Arnold as your hero, as you're someone you look up to.
Yeah.
And I guess the reality is he's always going to be that for me at that reality as a kid. But yeah, like my mindset definitely changed about, you know, him and many others, and just understanding that, I guess, yeah, whatever. But yeah, so what you were saying, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say about this process of leaving behind denial, leaving behind this idea that it's so uncomfortable, I don't want to accept that. And I feel like a lot of people in my life, you know, friends and family and such, that there is this clinging to, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm going to believe the narrative. I'm going to believe what I'm told because it's too uncomfortable for me to acknowledge the possibility that I've been lied to.
Yes.
So I'm going to stay in this.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to see.
It is. And I also think it's almost like a self-death. It's almost like a suicide for people because they wrap their personal identity with the way the world was going on before.
Yeah.
So especially with people who are part of this medical establishment, that's going to be disseminated completely because you can't sustain this. Like I've been outspoken against big pharma long before COVID measures. You know, being a health coach and doing my best to empower people on an individual basis to take personal responsibility for their health and their life, and then definitely do not rely on big pharma to be healthy. And in fact, it should not be called healthcare; it should be called sick care system, right? You don't go to the hospital to get healthy. You go to the hospital because you're sick. You go to the chiropractor, nutritionist, you know, physiotherapist, you know, meditation consultant. You go to those people to get healthy. Right. But even that is a whole mind shift that people need to go through. But yeah, like, I mean, people that are part of this medical establishment for a long time, for them to realize that they've been lied to and their whole life is almost a sham to a certain extent, like that's a lot. And it's almost like it's too much for some people that they're willing to stay in that sham, even though they're partially realizing it's a sham. But completely accepting it as is, it would be too much for them.
So what is it that you have seen in people that have made that shift? What has made the difference between somebody who unable to make that shift versus the person that is able?
I think just maybe, again, personal development would be the key word in that regard, because they need to understand that their self-importance and ego is wrapped up into that. So if people can unravel that aspect, and understanding that their profession, their title, that maybe they're vaccinologists or professors in universities, or, you know, they teach whatever they teach. And at this point, they understand that, no, I mean, I can still kind of have my title to a certain extent, but I have to definitely stand on the right side of a history and put a spotlight on these things. And also understand, because of my position, I actually have so much more leverage. Because it's no longer Coach Vlad saying, you know, this experimental job is actually, you know, dangerous and ultimately deadly. It's the people that created the technology themselves. You know, Dr. Malone, who actually invented mRNA technology, realized how dangerous it is to be used at this wide scale, and been outspoken against it for several months, but they scrapped him. Like, they changed the website.
His Wikipedia, yeah.
Right? And even the website of the company or university where he was in. And then he's censored like all over the place. And you want to talk about the expert, like the guy invented the technology, you know, as experts as you're going to get. And then Kerry Mullis, the inventor of PCR tests, before he coincidentally passed away in August of 2019, he was outspoken way before against Fauci, and his test should not be used to detect infectious disease, and it can be very easily manipulated like it's been for this whole time, right? So you have these people, still some of them alive and willing to take that stand. And I think it's understanding that there's a bigger picture to life, right? So, and unfortunately for some, maybe their ego is too wrapped into it, where I really believe it's for them, it's almost like a suicide to admit.
Well, it is in some ways, because, and this is what I was going to add to this idea, is that if you are so tied to identifying with your job title,
yes,
if that's who you think you are,
yes,
then it is a suicide,
yes,
and you don't have any other option. But if you have a deeper spiritual, a deeper mission or value, then you can transcend this sort of death of the old life, the old identity, and move into standing up for humanity, standing up for truth.
Yeah, and I think that would be the place if anyone has so-called access to these people that are still maybe sitting on a fence or maybe still too much wrapped up into their title, I would empower them to use that as a leverage, meaning that, like I just said, these people have so much more influence talking about these things than me or you, right? And potentially they can be definitely instrumental at the very minimum putting stop to these atrocities and crimes against humanity that are literally happening around the world. And it is, a global takeover, right? That's why as much as people escape into different parts of the world from Canada and the country as a whole and society as a whole, when you have people in primes of their life, professionals, very successful business owners, like literally fleeing in droves, that's a huge alarm sign for other people, right? And again, not passing judgment. We all have our own journey and stuff like that. There's millions of people that are staying in this country, and we're all going to defend this country shoulder to shoulder. And like we said, ensure that Canadian children have a future that's free of enslavement and tyrannical measures.
Amen. Let's flip back to these ideas you shared with me just before we started the podcast about your favorite books.
Yes.
So you told me just before we started recording here that you love audiobooks, you read a lot, or you listen to a lot of audiobooks, and there's one particular that you love and you listen to it, you said over 200 times.
Yes, probably 300 at this
300
point.
times.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really keep track, but if I had to guesstimate, in the last 8 years that I knew about this book, and again, it's only 2 hours, so you can listen to it. And I listen to things sometimes, double, time and a half speed, I guess. So yeah, you can listen to things very fast. So it's Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I came across this book by recommendation of one of the health coaches that I've been following in the company that I've been a part of for the last 20 years. And it's such a simple book. And at the same time, the depth that it provides to me personally is limitless, I would say, honestly. I listen to it, like I said, probably 300 times, maybe more combined. And every time I get something out of it. But ultimately, the four agreements in that book, number one is to be impeccable with your word. Second one is don't make any assumptions. Don't take anything personally is the third one. And then the fourth one is do your best. And I mean, all of them are very important and very unique in what they provide to you. But yeah, I think one that I always share the most is don't take things personally. And it actually says in the book that most of it trauma and drama of our lives happens because we take things personally and we make assumptions. Assumptions just break down in communication. By taking things personally, it's really where you go to this place of being a victim of circumstances and things that happen. So the way I look at it is that agreement, it's almost like my ammunition. It's almost like my shield.
That
right?
Truth.
Yes.
That truth that don't take things personally. Yes. It's like a shield.
Yes. And that's why I believe people often ask me that question, how Vlad, do you manage to navigate, all the hate from the outside and a lot of it from the inside of the freedom movements and all this stuff and whatever else happening and personal challenges that I'm obviously going through myself, a lot of them, very challenging. But anything that people do has nothing to do with me, it has everything to do with them. And that's what it says in the book. To the extreme where in the book says, even if somebody shoots you in the head, at that extreme, it's still about that person, not you. And trust me, I'm not perfect, but I do believe I'm a very good student at this point, practicing that agreement and all of them for, like I said, 8 years and listen to the book over and over again. And obviously a lot of other things that I listen to and read and all that stuff gives me the perspective. And that's actually the realization I come up not too long ago, thinking that we as humans, we gain wisdom. And wisdom comes from either books that we read or listen to, people that we interact with, and then experiences that we have. And I think those three things primarily shape who you are as a person. So the books and the people kind of make who you are as a person. But ultimately, it's the experiences that almost essential for you to gain that mind shift. Without that practical application.
Yeah, you got to put it into real life.
Exactly.
Because otherwise it's just living in your head. You can't learn to play soccer by reading a bunch of books.
It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll never be the same.
No.
And thank God it's that way.
Exactly.
Can you imagine?
Well, and that's this is actually very, and it's interesting because I thought about this last night at kind of wrapping up my day in my head and doing some meditation, whatever, is that's almost like the essential thing that we're experiencing right now, because what the agenda is pushing for us is not to live life, is not to be on the court, is to be in the stands, to be protective, to be safe. Don't engage with society. So it's ultimately like...
Play small, hide.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, so if you think about this, we often talk about, these measures taking the humanity out of us. And last night, I almost had this kind of mind shift comprehension is that's why, because it's literally taking life out of our lives, because we're not able to live and be in action and being engaged in society at the level where we can have those experiences, and then we can have that mind shift, and that's essential part of our personal human evolution. And because we are part of one humanity, we also contribute to one human evolution at the same time. So that's how that evil agenda is actually doing what they can to play on us. And obviously, they definitely screwed up St. Nasri in a big way, because like never before, people that are so like-minded, just connecting at a such deep level. Like you said, I mean, and trust me, I mean, the feeling is 100% mutual. Like we know each other just over a year, but it feels like I know you for 10 years.
Yep.
And it's mutual with so many other people that we meet. It's like you meet someone and you just have such a deep appreciation for the human in front of you, and you just have nothing but love and just like enjoy. Yeah. And we would not know each other.
I know.
If this wouldn't happen.
I know.
So again, as challenging as it is for a lot of people, including myself, we have to choose to be grateful. Yeah. For this whole life. Yeah. And we have to choose the whole life, because it's the whole life that makes us who we are in the end.
I have a question for you about choosing, because I noticed that as a theme when I was doing some research on you. So can you explain the power of choice? Yes. Because I have a feeling like there's he's showing a tattoo right now on his arm. It says choose.
And that was my first one. That was my very first tattoo that I got. I never had any tattoos before that. I now have 4 in total. But choose is, I call it my superpower. One of the books that was instrumental in that was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Right?
One of my favorite books.
And in that book, you literally have an example of a man making a choice in one of the most traumatic situations, right? And still choosing to have control over the mindset and choosing to focus on certain things, right? And then Landmark Education, that I've been a part of also before all this COVID nonsense. And it's a big theme in an initial course about choosing. And within Landmark, what they're saying is not to take away from people's experience taking the course whenever that happens again in real life, because again, everything's suspended right now. Right? Well, I mean, I think they're doing like Zooms and stuff like that, but it's not the same. Yeah. If people don't know, like the initial course you take with about 150 people, and it's literally sharing of others where you able to gain perspective, because within that they talk about blind spots, meaning that there's things that you just cannot see.
You don't know that you don't know.
Exactly, like from your experience or how you are with people and all that stuff. At the end of that course, they have a simple example where you're either making a decision or you're making a choice.
Oh, I don't remember this part because I took Landmark, so I don't remember this. So refresh me.
So ultimately what it talks about, when you're making a choice, you're doing it without consideration. Or the other way I would put it, you do it without attachment. You're just choosing. As soon as you put an attachment, as soon as you put some type of justification within landmark framework, it's considered to be a decision.
So choice is a way of maneuvering your life free from attachment, free from it needing to be a certain way. So it's that kind of equanimous sort of centered state.
So
that's why you have choose, and that's why it's powerful as a reminder for you.
Because you get to choose anything in your life, who you get to be in that moment. You know, no matter what's happening in my life, I still get to choose how I show up in that moment of my life. Because ultimately, that's the power that I have. Nobody can take that away from me. I am in charge of how I get to choose to show up in every moment of my life, right? So that's, I would say, it's probably the integral part of us being humans, is an ability to choose in any circumstances, no matter what's going on, you still have a power of choice. And maybe that's why what I've been doing is so important, because, you know, obviously they doing what they can to take away choice from us, right?
Yeah. The ultimate, they're trying to take away everything. It's like, but the funny thing is the way they're doing it is like, oh no, you have choice, but if you choose this way,
no, it's
we're going to judge you.
It's called coercion. There's no mandatory vaccination, but we're going to make your life so miserable and completely like ostracized from society that you will have no choice, quotation mark, but to choose what is safe and effective.
And it's a blueprint of an abusive relationship. And that's where I feel compassion for people.
Yes.
But also I don't excuse behavior when they turn a blind eye, because they do need to take responsibility for their lives.
For sure.
But I have compassion for people. It's like, because if you're in an abusive relationship, it's really hard to see sometimes.
Yes.
And it's like, I don't know what else. And like, if you believe that the government really cares and really wants you to be healthy and happy and is doing everything for you,
I'm sorry, I just have to laugh at that.
I know.
That's why they shut down all the gyms. That's why they make only fast food essential and everything else in between. It's just such a total joke. It's just, but it just shows you how efficient and powerful brainwash indoctrination machine is. And again, this is not a first time. We have so many examples in history where under fear and with the slogan for your safety, atrocities have been committed in the past. And that's why one of the things that I've been pushing for probably over a month now, there's a difference between never forget over we forgot, right? So, the slogan never forget talks about, the Holocaust and atrocities in the, Second World War, etc. But the reality is, I guess we forgot.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right?
We have forgotten.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because we're not acting.
You're 100% right.
Right? Like the history is right there. And that's one of the works that we're doing specifically with We All Essential is we made these really cool posters with our marketing team, which I'm grateful for their volunteering, is basically a comparison between segregation in the Deep South to the current times. And it's exactly the same. Segregation is segregation, discrimination is discrimination. Like, as much as they want to say this is not the same, I'm sorry, it is.
Interesting thing I found is some people then go, oh, that's so, they like attack you for comparing the two?
Because the reason why people attack, and I want to give context to that so people understand, again, it's nothing personal. The reason why you get attacked if you're bringing that point is because they feel threatened, because now you're questioning their stance. That's why I make this short now on the right side of the history, because we need to really bring the point across. There's no longer sitting on a fence, right? As much as we don't want to divide the society or the people in general, the reality is right there. You're either on one side of the history or the other. And we have plenty examples which side you should be on. And the reality is, again, in history, there's not a single example where the people that promoted segregation, censorship, and everything else were the good people. So
I love that meme. I've seen that meme everywhere.
Exactly.
It's a great one.
It's a simple enough, and then still people will go after you, right? But it just, again, as we discussed earlier, it's just too painful for them, because then they have to question their whole existence, or at least the actions that they've been personally taking or potentially putting on their own children, right? Like the reality for some parents to understand that they have been abusing their own children for the last year and a half because the government told them to do so. It's pretty sad.
It's tough.
It's sad.
Tough. But you know what? I still think there are people, and I've seen this on social media, that there are people that are waking up and they're saying, I'm so sorry, and they're taking ownership and responsibility.
100%.
And I think that's what everybody can do, is say, hey, this is not about piling on to people and beating them up and be like, see, look what you did. It's like, that doesn't actually help anybody.
No, it
you know, if you care about humanity, you want to give people the space to take responsibility and to celebrate that and to help them as best you can.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's their journey that they have to go through that. So one of the last questions I have for you, Vlad, what advice can you give to people to take another step forward, to get more uncomfortable in their life? What do you think that they need to hear?
I think having that perspective that ultimately the main priority for us should be protect all the kids. So doing what you can to be example, at least to your own children, and you're blessed to have your own children. And if not, you still can be an example to other children around you or in the society as you go around. They need a beacon of hope. They need the shining of a truth and humanity and strong, courageous stance in this sea of fear and negativity and all that stuff, right? So as challenging as it is for a lot of people, and I get it, everyone's different, right? Like, I mean, and again, trust me, I'm not completely invincible in terms of my emotional stance. Sometimes I get agitated. Sometimes I get some level of anxiety going somewhere with no mask and all that stuff. And I want to share that so people understand I'm not superhuman, right? Yeah. I'm still human and I still go through whatever I have to go through. I'm just able to manage it better for sure. But trust me, it took me a lot of work to get to that place. And that would be maybe the second thing I would say is do what you can on a daily basis to work on you first. Because as the saying goes, be the change you want to see in the world. And I think if we only can focus on that before anything else, we will have a very beautiful world. If that's a consistent daily action, and it doesn't have to be a lot. In fact, you don't want to make it a lot because you get overwhelmed and then you don't do anything the next day or two. So just be consistent and in daily actions and working on you first and being a change that you want to see in the world, right? And then understanding that you always are a man or woman of influence, whether you like it or not. We are always influencing people around us. And us understanding that, I do believe, will shape how we behave ourselves. Even in some situations when things might get escalated and agitated or whatever, still understand that you still have a power to influence, whether you like it or not. What kind of influence and ultimately what kind of impact do you want to leave on someone? As the other really good saying goes, is that people will remember you not by what you did for them, but how you left them feeling after you left, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. How you made them feel.
Exactly, right? So have those kind of things in your mind as you go about your life. And then, especially in this current climate, do the best that you can to go about your life, to have sense of normalcy as much as possible, right? And understand that you are doing, a work that needs to be done out there, and being that beacon and lighthouse of that can shine the light and attract people to you as well. And people are out there, people looking for other like-minded people. That's why, again, as much as some people like to attack me for selling t-shirts with slogans and stuff like that, they are very powerful and then they work a lot. Because even myself, I constantly get stopped in stores on the streets because of, hugs of a mask t-shirt that I'm wearing, or Wheel Essential, or I'm free Canadian, or on the right side of the history. Like, those things work because you are a walking billboard, whether you like it or not. So what kind of message do you walk around, and then are you able to connect with other like-minded people? Because people need community. People need to come together and support each other. So yeah, I guess that would be the summary, in the sense of do work on you first, then understand that you are a man or woman of influence, whether you like it or not. So be mindful what kind of influence and impact you're making. And then just do your best, like the 4 Agreements tells us.
Amen. Vlad, this has been such a great conversation. I feel like we could talk for another few hours.
Oh yeah, and we probably should.
Next time. But I want to end this podcast with my favorite question. I ask all my guests this question: if in your house, Vlad, you had a painting on your wall, and whenever you looked at that painting, it was a magic painting, and you could feel any type of feeling that you wanted to feel, to any degree that you wanted to feel it, what feeling would you choose? And also, what would the painting look like?
I would choose peace, and the painting would be just like maybe a calm ocean water kind of washing on a shore or something like that.
So like deep blues would kind of be the color scheme?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do believe that one of the main things that people want to attain in life, and it's challenging for most, is a peace of mind. So, and it's for me as well. I mean, again, it's an ongoing work, and I do my best, but definitely to be in a peace of mind where you're able to not to be impacted by emotions around you, whether self-imposed or by other people, can make you a better human.
This type of peace, can you explain that to someone who's never felt that type of peace that you're talking about?
Like I just mentioned, I think it's not to be triggered, not to be wound up by the outside world. Just have almost like calmness inside of you, where you can be very grounded, you can be very clear and not clouded in your judgment and whatever else is going on. So that's how I would, identify it, or yeah.
Did you find that peace when you did your 5-day meditation retreat?
It definitely planted a big seed there.
Yeah.
And like I said to you earlier, I find the 4 Agreements book does that for me on a regular basis, because it does talk about in that book as well, attaining the peace of mind. And the other really cool saying from that book is to attain a peace of mind, you have to become a spiritual warrior.
I don't remember that. I got to read this book again.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a gift. That book is such a gem for me personally, and I hope for a lot of people. If you haven't heard about it, or even if you've maybe read it a long time ago, I strongly recommend to revisit it. And to that extent, the other thing I can add on is I really like the word warrior, because in our freedom world movement, people like to use the word fighter a lot. And again, for me, it just doesn't resonate, because fighting, again, it just a lot more aggressive and also almost like short-sighted, where the warrior is more grounded, is more clear.
It sounds purposeful to me.
Purposeful for
sure.
Yeah,
because a fighter can be a fighter with no purpose. Yeah.
Right? A lot of warriors in history, they were not necessarily warriors. They were doing other things. They might have been farmers or tradesmen, etc. However, when the time comes and you do need to defend, you become a warrior.
And the time has come for us to become warriors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and we have a lot of them, and it's a blessing to be shoulder to shoulder with you and so many others, and be able to defend our country to make sure it stays glorious and free.
Amen, Vlad. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a blast.
We'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Cheers. Well, that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down, relax, and enjoy this episode. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're walking, maybe you're doing some chores, whatever the case may be. I appreciate you taking the time to check in, to listen to this episode all the way to the end. Thank you so much for your support. I want to send a special thank you to Vlad once again for all his efforts and his work and everything that he does. It's truly inspiring to me. And thank you, Vlad, for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time and jumping in my podcast van. I'm sure you guys could hear some of the rain on the roof. We were recording this episode in my podcast van. This is the first one that I did in my podcast van after all my repairs. And I haven't soundproofed it perfectly yet. So you could hear on the vent, some of the raindrops would hit and you could hear in the background. I'm sure some of you could pick that up. But thank you, Vlad, so much, man. I really appreciate you. You're a wonderful human being. All the best to you. Godspeed. Stay strong. And in the future, I'm going to soundproof that vent. For me, the OCD part of my brain, I'm like, I gotta fix that. I gotta get that done. And then I have to relax myself and say, Graham, it's about the content. It's about the conversation. It's about what people feel through the experience. And they'll forgive you if there's some rain in the background. So that's my process. That's what I'm working on. But if you want to check out some of the things that we talked about, all the links will be below this video or in the show notes of the podcast player that you are listening on. So you can check out those links there. And I always do my best to keep things honest, to keep things the best information that I have. But I do make mistakes. I do have things that I have to correct. So please forgive me if that is the case. And I will make sure that I have the best information there for you guys to check out. But as always, like I say to people, look into things yourself. Ask questions yourself. What rings true for you? Dig deep. Go inside and feel that strength and the truth. And that's what it is. That's how I have maneuvered I'm maneuvering more and more of my life that way, is I kind of tune in and I check in and I go, does this feel rooted? Does this feel strong? And I may not be able to prove it 100% in that moment, but I'll do my best to kind of dig into it, to keep asking questions, and to make sure that I don't get stuck on a belief system or an idea and I'm not willing to look at anything else. I do my very best to keep an open mind. So I want to encourage everybody to keep an open mind, ask questions, get out there, read lots of things, and tune into yourself and feel what rings true for you. Now, I also want to say that I did have a road trip planned out to Alberta and then all the way down to Texas, but because of the problems with my van, I went through 3 fridges, 2 furnaces, and lots of glue to fix some things that were breaking. But it was under warranty, so I got that stuff fixed, so thank God. So it won't be till next year that I'll be planning my road trip. And so that'll be fun to go out to Alberta and then all the way down to Texas. I've never been to Texas, and I can't wait because I got some friends there now, and I'm excited to go visit them. So that'll be a lot of fun. And along the way, I'm definitely going to let people know where I'm stopping to come and say hello, do some episodes on the road. That'll be fun. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I want to give a shout out to Eskimotion for the theme music for my podcast. The song is called In Dreams. That's the one that starts at the beginning there. It plays in. Get in the zone. So thank you to Eskimotion for that. And I want to send a special thank you to all of you. There are so many of you out there that share this podcast, that send me encouragement, that send me donations as well, and just say, hey, have a great weekend, or this is for the podcast. There's so much support, and there are days where I will just sit back and I will feel so blessed. I always feel blessed, but I just really focus on it and give thanks for it. And I really want to take the time right now to express that to all of you, whether you're able to donate or just share the podcast or just comment on it or just take the time to listen. I appreciate that. I mean, to me, that's why I do this, is just in some way, if I can touch someone's life in some way, then I've done my job. That's, to me, is my golden ticket. That's why I do this. And if it's passing the podcast on to a friend, if it's writing a comment, if it's sending a donation to help support the show, whatever the case may be, I thank you for your support. It means the world to me. Next up, I got Carrie James back on the podcast. I always have so much fun with Carrie James. And this episode is the first one I'm doing with video. So I wasn't going to do video, but then I was inspired. And I was like, you know what? Carrie James is working on his new camper van. And I was like, let's shoot the episode in your camper van.
Yeah, it's about time we finally just made time for this.
And we're doing it in your van. This is the van that you're
in the motorhome.
Yeah, the motorhome. That's right. So tell me about the motorhome. What's the name of it?
Okay, this is a little humiliating, but it is presently the Slumber Queen.
I had a lot of fun doing it, and it's going to be a little different than my traditional podcast. My regular podcast with audio only, I trim them because I like things to move and the ideas to be condensed or crisp. So with video, now that's a little different because it's not scripted and it's just a regular conversation. The editing will be a little bit different. You probably won't know the difference. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But for me, I'm like, oh man, I can't do all, take out some of the ums and shorten the pauses and do these little things that I like to do to make it just a listening experience for people. But if you want to watch the video section, or the video version, I should say, of my next podcast, you're going to have to check it out on YouTube or Odyssey. That's the new platform that I'm releasing my podcast episodes on, obviously because there's censorship and things you can't say now on YouTube because there's all this stuff going on with algorithms and whatnot. So Odyssey, and I'm going to try some other platforms as well. But right now it's YouTube and Odyssey, and then your regular podcast players. Thank you so much, guys. I want to wrap this up by sending you all my very best. Be strong, my friends. Step into your power. Become that spiritual warrior that you are destined to be. Cheers.